It all started on a rainy spring morning when I noticed unusual flooding in my yard. At first, I assumed it was just the heavy storms, but something didn't feel right. The water seemed to be pooling unnaturally, and it was spreading toward the lower end of my property faster than it should have. I grabbed my raincoat and boots and stepped outside, only to discover the shocking truth. HOA Karen had decided to dig her own pond, right on my property. Karen, of course, claimed it was an accidental encroachment, as she stood waist-deep in muddy water with a grin that screamed entitlement. But it wasn't an accident. She had been surveying the land for weeks, plotting where she could expand her private water feature without actually asking permission. And thanks to her planning, my yard was now a mini-lake, and some of my landscaping and irrigation systems were completely destroyed. I immediately called the county to report the trespassing and unauthorized pond construction. The county water inspector, whom I happened to know personally, confirmed my suspicions. Karen had violated multiple codes and had illegally diverted water from natural drainage channels, threatening the integrity of my property and nearby lands. The county threatened fines, but that wasn't enough. I realized I needed to handle this strategically. Here's the thing most people didn't know about me. I'm the county water inspector for the district. That means I have authority over water rights, water flow, and any construction affecting public and private waterways. Karen, blissfully unaware of who she was dealing with, thought she could intimidate me with her usual HOA tactics, threatening letters, fake legal notices, and a cavalcade of complaints to local authorities. But she had underestimated the extent of my control. I drove down to her property, boots squelching in the mud, holding official documents and blueprints for water flow management in the district. She tried to protest, waving her hands and yelling about neighborhood rights, but I stopped her mid-rant. Karen, you flooded my yard, damaged my irrigation, and violated multiple water codes. I'm going to need you to stop immediately, remove your equipment, and restore the natural drainage. Failure to do so will result in consequences you won't like. Karen naturally ignored me. That was her first mistake. Her second mistake was ignoring the subtle but firm reminder that I have the authority to regulate water across the entire district. I called in my assistant inspectors, and we began assessing the damage. With precise documentation, we calculated not only the repairs needed but the legal implications of her actions. Every cubic foot of water she diverted, every tree she undermined, and every inch of soil she displaced was recorded meticulously. Then came the real fun. Using my authority, I issued an emergency water control order that temporarily rerouted the water rights. Essentially, Karen's pond, which she thought she owned, was now under my jurisdiction. I set up temporary barriers and channels that redirected her pond water back to my property, flooding her carefully manicured garden and turning her pond into a soggy mess. The HOA board, oblivious to what was happening, tried to intervene, but I had all the legal documentation. Every step I took was fully compliant with county codes, leaving them with no room to argue. The final step was sealing the deal. I personally inspected her property with my assistant inspectors and implemented a water diversion plan that permanently ensured her pond could never function as intended. The flow now ran exactly as it should, nourishing my yard, my trees, and even the neighboring properties that had been affected by her illegal pond. Karen, drenched and defeated, could only watch as her perfect little lake became a muddy disaster. By the end of the week, word had spread throughout the neighborhood. HOA Karen had attempted to flood my property, and the county water inspector, who just happened to be me, had turned the tables completely. The HOA board learned an important lesson. Never underestimate someone who controls water rights, and never try to manipulate nature for your personal gain. Karen never tried another stunt on my property. She sulked in her soggy garden, while I restored my yard, planted new trees, and enjoyed the satisfaction of knowing justice had been served quietly, efficiently, and legally. The HOA learned that when it comes to my land, every attempt to trespass, divert water, or manipulate the environment would be met with swift and precise authority. In the end, the lesson was clear. You can't mess with my property, my water, or my expertise. Karen learned that the hard way, and I made sure the neighborhood knew exactly why she should never be trusted near anyone else's land. It was a victory not just for me, but for every property owner in the area who values their land and water rights.